my scrappy friends, I have a layout for you using my secret, not so secret kit. I think I add a little bit of Maggie Holmes, like this blue paper is actually Maggie Holmes, but for the most part, I use that kit. And we're doing a collab with Page Map, and Becky Fleck, and so the sketch that I'm using at the beginning that you've seen is the one that I'm using. So I'm going to be actually splitting, well, obviously it's a double page. I'm going to be switching it a little bit and adding my own flair. I will say that I do not make this remotely at all mixed media, and I think it's just because there were a large amount of photos that go on this. I think that there were, let's see, 6 on one side and 3 on the other. So there's like 9 photos. At first I thought there was supposed to be like 11 or something, which is crazy too. So I think this is a layout that I think this is maybe the most amount of photos that I've added on a double page in a long time. So I usually don't add this many, but that's okay. It was really fun. It actually was kind of fun because I got to pull out some photos that I've had for a long time that I've not used on a layout, and they were all from the same day. So, which is one of the nice things about a double page spread is that you can, when you go to places like museums, because that's what I'm documenting, and you just take a ton of photos and you just like, do you really need, 11 layouts or 5 layouts, with like a multiple of, you don't. So if you can fit all your photos pretty much on one layout, that's, awesome, right? So yeah. So one of the sides shows like a pattern, and then the other side either shows like a solid or a plain piece of cardstock. I'm going to use a plain piece of white cardstock because I was thinking that that would just give a little bit more breathing room having the white, but you could totally do a color too. So also another thing that I did to make it maybe a little bit easier on myself is to take one of these photos, and I'm actually going to divide it into 3. So the one side has 3 photos that are about 3.5 by 5, I think it was the dimensions. So on the sketch it had dimensions, and I tried to stick with the dimensions. Now I don't always do this. I don't always go, oh, I need to have it on the dimensions, but I thought that it might be kind of nice for me to try to stick to the rules, because I don't always. So I believe I added an extra layer of paper too, but that's okay. Oh yeah, I forgot I added this paper from that blue, and their stars is actually from Dear Lizzie too. I just thought that it would work because this is photos from a flight museum that is out near Seattle, and I mean, it's amazing. There's so many things in there. We didn't even get to see everything, so we're going to be going back. But there's this picture that I took from the observation deck, or like the flight tower. So you get to go into this one room where you get to see out where some of the smaller planes take off, and you get to hear their transmission back and forth to the tower. So it was really fun, and I thought that this was a really cool picture. And I did have to take this photo and like really edit it because it was a really hazy day that day. So it kind of got blown out a little bit. But that's where Photoshop is really awesome, because you can put it in and work on the levels and the contrast and everything, and then get some back of your color back. So yeah. So apparently I'm doing something else. I thought I edited this really good, but I guess I didn't. So this did take me quite a while to do. And I will apologize. I think the very end, I think I missed a few of the embellishing parts, but for the most part, this is all here. So I put this on white. I backed it on white, and I just pretty much just left a little bit of gap in between each photo. So when you see it, you're gonna read it as one photo, but it really is 3. And On the sketch, the 3 photos were supposed to be on the other side, and you're going to see I'm going to play around with the white side and the blue side and how, like, where do I want them on the sketch. The pattern paper is on the other side. I don't really think so with sketches like this. I don't know if it necessarily matters as long as you really keep the integrity. I mean, so if you're going to use a sketch, right? And I say this, and you can take it with a grain of salt, right? So when you're using a sketch, sometimes keeping the integrity of the sketch is really important and really fun. And that also helps the designer who designs the sketches, you know, benefit, because they work really hard to balance out, especially when you have a double page layout. It's really hard to balance all of the elements together. So, I really did kind of try to stick to the sketch, and because, like I said, because there are so many photos, and as you can see, I printed off even more than what was on the thing. And I want to say the dimensions of the smaller ones were 2.5 by 3.5, maybe, or something like, or 2.25 by 3.5, 3.25. It was something like that. I think my dimensions were a little bit off, and for the most part I tried to get them all the same, but apparently I didn't do a good job when I did my rulers in Photoshop to put them all in. So I just printed them all on one paper. I thought it would be quicker than trying to print off a whole bunch of small papers. So, and these are mostly of the planes inside. Just the main plane area. There's also, like I said, there's a ton of stuff in the Space Museum, or the Flight Museum. So it is crazy. There's a ton of planes, and it's really, really cool because it's like on the day that we went, it was really sunny, so the sun's coming in and it's really nice and light, and you see these big planes. I mean, and some of them are really not very big, but as far as planes go. But it's just like, it's magnificent. You see all these planes and they have them hanging, and it's really cool. And so I really tried hard with my nice camera. I use my DSLR to get some nice shots. I don't always take my nice camera when I go to places. It just depends on what we're doing, but I did try to get some really nice shots. And like I said, being able to use my nice camera, I could put it in Photoshop and I could really edit it and make sure that the lighting was a lot better. And so I kept them really nice and bright. And so one of the things that I did, because I have that blue and white paper that has the crisscrosses, I really kind of wanted to keep some other patterns that were really similar to that. And so I had this yellow paper, and I have another yellow paper from the Here and There collection, which I actually had gotten in my secret not so secret kit club kit from Christina. So yeah, so here's the other one that has a similar pattern, and I'm gonna put the other 3 photos on here. So I did it kind of like a film strip where I just put 3 photos together and 3 photos together. If you look on the original sketch, they're all kind of together, but I decided to do them 3 and 3, and this way I could kind of move these around and have a little bit of a different grid if I wanted to. And as you can see, I'm kind of playing around with which one I wanted in the middle, how much space I wanted extra, because they weren't all the same. That one in the middle is a smaller size, so I kind of had to play around with it when I go to cut it. And I'm actually using 2 different, if you're wondering, I am using 2 different trimmers because I just got a new one, but it's the Stampin' Up one, but I find that it's hard to see the line of where, I think it's just because I haven't used it that very long, where I can get it like really straight next to the other, like the photo when I go to cut it. So I'll have to work on that, but for these I really didn't want it like that gap to be really big. So and then as I'm playing around with this paper, which is also Maggie Holmes, I'm gonna put them like offset a little bit, so it's a fun take on a grid. I really like that. And so I did play around, like I moved this around a few times because I was like, do I keep the one side? But I really wanted that that big photo that I cut into threes. I really wanted that on the pattern paper. I thought it looked, that blue and blue looked really nice together. And so I'm just kind of playing around and seeing if that's really where I want it, or do I want to flip it again? And then I decide that maybe I'll put this vellum on that blue tealy spot next to the 6 photos. So I'm just going to work on that and just kind of figure out, if you look at the sketch in the middle, there is a section where there's like a whole bunch of speech bubbles for embellishments. So I'm thinking, well, this will be a good place to start, get some stuff on the layout. And I find that sometimes when I can't figure out exactly what I want to do, if I focus on something else on the layout, then usually it starts coming together. Yeah. So, and I really want to make sure that I'm using the space wisely, but I'm also layering stuff and making sure I get the patterns on both sides. So once again, here I am looking, okay, do I want this like aerial overhead shot paper of like fields and stuff? And I thought that would be kind of fun, because when you're talking about space and flying, when you look overhead, you see those spots a lot, right? Especially when you live in like a area where there's a lot of farms and stuff. So I thought that that would be kind of fun. And I actually really kept a lot of the pattern paper not on the white spot area, which is fine. So I'm just gluing down some of the areas before I kind of cut the 2 pieces. What I like to do is add my pattern paper over both of the sides, and then when I get to right before the embellishment part is when I'll take it and I'm going to cut it. So I decided that this is how I'm going to have it. I'm going to put the vellum back on that other side, and I'm going to cut that other paper, and I'm going to make sure that everything fits so it's the same. I mean, this is going to go in a D-ring binder eventually, right? An album. So it's not going to be right next to each other. So, I mean, I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be super perfect, but I do want it to be pretty close, because when I take a picture of it, I don't want it to look like it's not together. And that's one of the things that I think about. It's not necessarily what it's going to look like in the album, because like I said, it won't run the span of right next to each other. And this is why a lot of times when I design my own double pages, I make them almost 2 separate layouts that go really well together, or that coordinate, because I know that they're not going to be touching. So, but the one nice thing about doing a double page like this is that if you do have like a D-ring, or not the D-rings, the other ones, you can get them pretty close together, or you could tape the protectors down at the bottom together too. You could do that. So I decide to use, I was going to use the alphas that Christina sent me in my kit, but then I decided to pull out these because I thought that it might be nice to add some kind of metallic. And I really like these. So I'm going to spill out airspace. And I use that sticker that says Discover, and there's this piece of ephemera that says Adventure, and I really just like that layered. And I love it when I can take stickers and ephemera that have words on them and put them together and kind of build a title from that. So it's like Discover Adventure Airspace on the map. And I really like the vellum on the map on the photo. It just is really fun. So this tag I think is going to end up at the top actually, but for right now I'm putting it there. And I actually move around a lot of this stuff. I only put a little bit of glue on it, on these pieces, so that I can move them around. And I move them around quite a bit just because I'm not really sure. And I know that there's a ton of stuff that should go in the middle But finding just exactly where you want it and where it seems to fit is what's gonna take the most amount of time. And I know, like I said, I don't share all of this whole area of all the little teeny tiny pieces, but I do show a good majority of it. So I like having the departures and arrival card. You know, when you go to fly, you always see those signs and stuff. So I thought that that would be good. I really tried to stick with the ephemera in the here and there collection that had to do with flying. So I took that photo that had the picture of outside the like through the windows, and I'm gonna put that in between. So when it goes in my protector, it's only going to be on the one page, but when I took a picture of it, it's all together, so it's on both sides. I decided not to cut that piece because in the end, I think it'll look better just, you know, as a whole piece. And most of it is on the one side with most of the vellum. So yeah, so see, I moved that one ticket, and I am going to end up putting, actually, I cut up in the Here and There collection, it has these cards that have like the date and stuff, and I put September because we went to the museum here around September, so of this past year. And then, like I said, I just took some pieces. So I took some of the airplanes, the wings that you can get, like those pins that they give to kids. I don't know if they're pins anymore, but they used to be pins when I was a kid. And stuff. So I found this Explore More, and it looks like the when you go and look at your flights, and I ended up putting that above. I really like how that looks, and so then I moved the plane up over there to build like a little cluster. I really liked how that turned out. So I end up leaving the fly where it is, but I pull it up above. And as you can see, I'm playing with that card, but I'm going to end up moving that on the other side of the other photo. So on the other page and stuff. And I really wanted to add one of those envelopes, but it just, I don't know, it was too much. And I really did want the vellum to kind of show a little bit. So it took me a little while to get this all figured out of exactly how I want it. And I think that's just kind of how it works when you're working with stuff like this. So I added a lot of chipboard and everything. And then in the end, I'm going to use just a few enamel dots and stuff. And I used some of the flare on there too. So here is the close-ups of this. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Make sure that you check out Page Maps, the website. I'll make sure I have links below that you can find and take a look at everybody else's stuff. There's a whole bunch of people joining in and collabing together and using the Page Maps sketches, and it was just really, really fun. It was super fun. So I'll see you guys later. I hope you have a great week, and I hope you stay inspired. Bye.